Surya namaskar. Right here at this point in surya namaskar, going into it, students move into chaturanga dandasana. So you can show either stepping into it and lowering down, or in one movement, chaturanga dandasana. Pause here. This is a very hard pose to do, very challenging. Often, round your back, round your shoulders. Students will do this to hold their strength, but it will tax the shoulders when they go into upward facing dog. So come all the way down. Take the tops of your feet to the floor. So often, this is given instead as like chaturanga at rest. Because she's in chaturanga at rest, it's bhujangasana, cobra pose, is such a natural option. So come up in bhujangasana with your elbows bent and thighs on the floor. So in surya namaskar, to do the full bhujangasana would be too much. It's early on in class that surya namaskar sun salutations happen. So this is given instead, or there'll be fingertips to the floor, etc., etc. And in my experience, it's often given instead of upward facing dog. So one thing on that is, if you are going to do bhujangasana to warm up your spine, which is a much deeper back bend than upward facing dog, consider practicing bhujangasana later, towards the end of your back bending practice, to do the full form, which requires that Ellen straighten her arms as she curls her head back. So notice the angle of her arms. Now come down, and if you would, show upward facing dog. Now her arms are straight up and down, and there's much less of a back bend. So this is actually makes a lot more sense. Come on down for a second. To do upward facing dog as part of surya namaskar. In fact, that is the pose that's in surya namaskar, because it's about strength, it's about building heat, it's not about stretch. Whereas bhujangasana, again, so to show, this is much more about big time stretch as soon as she goes to straighten her arms. Major stretch in the low back, upper back, whole back. It is an advanced back bend. Come on down. So something I'm passionate about is the poses that are in surya namaskar, you're not going to necessarily, you'll either do a modification or an alternate pose. Just make sure all those poses you do practice the full form. Like your uttanasana here in surya namaskar, do work towards later the full form with your palms flat on the floor and folding forward. If only I had warmed up.